Hello everybody and welcome back to Sam and Ham. This is Ham, and today we're going to be taking a look at Castle Ravenloft, Strahd's castle in Minecraft. Before we dive into everything today, I just wanted to say that I did not build this all by myself. This was originally crafted by StrahdVonZarovich here on YouTube. I've got a link to his video within the description. Mostly what I've gone and done is add a lot more details to every room to make it a lot more easy to identify exactly what room you're in. So for example, in the library, while he built the dimensions of it, I put in all the books, tables, paintings, stuff like that to make each room pop a little bit more. And I may have done a few more things that you'll see as we go on that I think really kind of help the experience. But again, I could not have done this all without his base to start on, so. Without any further ado, let's dive into this thing. First up we have K1, the front courtyard, as well as a broken stained glass window slightly above. When my group ran through this, I really assumed that the monk would run up the wall and through the window, but they didn't, surprisingly. They all took the front door. The only other things of interest here in the courtyard are these gate towers on each side of the entrance. They contain the latch mechanism to open and lower the drawbridge. You can only activate it with either a successful Dispel Magic or a word that only Strahd knows, so nothing really useful here. Heading around to the left, we run into a portcullis. This portcullis can be lifted with a DC 15 strength check, or with a command word that Strahd and Cyrus Bellevue know. So Cyrus is just a servant, so if your party could theoretically interrogate him, but by the time they find Cyrus, I think this portcullis is going to be the last thing on their mind. K3 here is the servants' courtyard. Nothing really of import other than it can lead to both the servants' entrance and the carriage house. Though the carriage house itself is mostly unimportant. We'll get into the servants' quarters more later, but it is a pretty good entrance into the castle if they don't want to take the front door. Heading farther along this way, we run into the chapel garden. Just lets you see into the chapel. It's one of those things, if it was a video game, this place would be nearly worthless. However, if your party wants to get into the chapel without having to go through any other kind of potential dangers, you can always just break a window and get in. Over here is K6, the Overlook. One of the concessions you have to make when you're doing this in Minecraft is that this is not a 1,000-foot drop like it is in the book. So it's just one of those things you'll have to explain to your players. And if they look over the balcony, they can actually see K88, the tomb of Strahd's parents. It's impossible to climb here without a climbing kit, which I don't imagine most players having, but if they have a fly speed, they could potentially end up in the tomb much sooner than you might have anticipated. Heading back up and over this way, we'll run into another portcullis, the exact same as on the other side. It's the DC 15, and something I forgot to mention about both of these, they will shut again unless the players prop them open. But then as you can see, that takes us right back around to the front courtyard. There's not a whole lot outside, kind of forcing the players to quickly make their way into the castle. K7 is the entry. As they make their way into here, they're going to hear the sound of organ music from in those other doors there. As well as, they'll notice some dragon statues above them. The red dragon statues don't attack anybody who enters the area from outside. However, anybody who enters this area from those doors, as if fleeing the castle, the red dragon wormlings will come to life and attack the guests. However, if the players just keep running, they're not permitted to leave this room, the dragons aren't, and so they will fly back up to their perch and not chase. Making your way further again, you end in the great entryway. Around the top is a ring of stone gargoyles. When they first make their way into the castle, they will run into Raha-Din coming down these stairs, and he will lead them over there to the dining hall. From here, the party has many ways they can go. They can actually follow Raha-Din's instructions and go to the dining hall. Or they could technically go up those stairs through that door, or on these stairs. And as for the gargoyles up to the top, They don't do anything the first time the party enters the room, but after the whole party has left this room, the next time they enter, the gargoyles will attack. And the turbulence from their wings knocks out all the torches. So we're gonna head over here, assuming they follow Raven's instructions, to K10. K10 is the dining hall. You'll find Strahd playing an organ over there against the far wall, as well as a bunch of delicious looking food on the table. I don't know how trustworthy your party is, but my party did not trust the food at all. However, the food is absolutely fine. No poison here to be detected. The Strahd that is sitting at the organ is an illusion. He will talk for a few rounds and probably gloat, after which he will disappear, and the organ music will stop. If the party explores enough to touch the keys of the organ will slide over, revealing a hidden door. And this is probably one of my favorite changes I've made since the original creator made the castle, is he just had all the doors as a regular door with a secret sign above them, but it was very clearly labeled a secret door. So it wasn't really useful if you wanted to have your players here, because they'd see all the secret doors, obviously. What I did was made a resource pack that makes it blend in. As you can kind of see by that black line at the bottom, there is a tell in case you as the DM forget, but hopefully your players won't notice that. And even if they do, you just gotta look up a little bit higher. As we make our way through here to K11, K12, and K13. There's nothing of huge importance in here. There are some mirrors party could use for some shenanigans. Otherwise, these are mostly empty. They do lead over here to K64, which we will get to in a little while. As you can tell by the difference in numbers here, the castle jumps around quite a bit, so you'll hear me say we'll come back to that later a lot. So we're gonna head back out this way. And we're gonna go through this door here to K14. This one is the Hall of Faith. There are statues lining the walls, and the statues' eyes seem to follow you. They are merely illusions here to scare the players. There are a lot of illusions and traps and things here to just scare your players and make them not be ready for when something actually does attack them. So all they have to do is proceed to the chapel, K15 here. K15 has a few things of note. One, if you have been doing the drawing, Strahd can potentially be one of the bats that flies around in the belfry, otherwise there are just some normal bats up there. They'll also see a beam of light beaming down to this small statuette here, as well as a dead body slumped on the floor. The statuette is the icon of Ravenloft. Any evil creature that touches it has to make a DC 17 Constitution check or take 16d10 radiant damage. It's brutal, it one-shot our monk. Meanwhile, the body here is just covered in some nice-looking black armor, but he does have a Mace of Terror lying on the ground. Otherwise, there isn't too much of important here. Bunch of windows, which again, if the party needs to escape, they can just jump right out. The ways out of here are the Hall of Faith that we just came through, 2 stairways to the left and right, or if your party is good at climbing or flying, they can go straight up to the balcony up above. So first for us, we're gonna go over this way. K17 here, we have 2 statues. They don't do anything. Here to scare the players. If we go down, we'll see this small caved-in area. There's a small hole just big enough that a vampire in its misty form, or a player if he has gaseous form, can slip through. Otherwise, it's too small for even a halfling to fit through. The players can spend an hour kind of excavating it in order to finally make their way down it. It'll lead them farther down the staircase, and honestly, one of the safer ways to get down to the bottom, assuming they don't roll for any random encounters while they're digging. Which I should remind you, anytime you run into an empty room in the castle, you should be rolling on the random encounter table to keep things interesting. I mentioned those empty halls earlier by the dining room, and while they were in there, they decided they just wanted to rest and kind of get their bearings, but they rolled on the random encounter table, and some crawling hands came through the archer slits. Assuming they don't go down that way, they can always head up these stairs here. And they're very long stairs. Should mention here that this is one of the main reasons that I like using the Minecraft map, because there are many spiral staircases in the castle, and it's a little hard to keep them all straight, to be honest. I know I certainly struggled, and I think if I'm the DM struggling and I have the maps, I fear for my players. As you make your way to K59, you see there's a large hole in the ceiling. This is the high tower shaft, and as you make your way up to the top, you actually might run into Piddlewick 2 here. Piddlewick 2 is nice to your players if your players are nice to him, otherwise he'll try to push them down some stairs. The only things of import here are, one, if your players are feeling mobile, they can try to jump across to over there, which we'll get there in a little while. All you gotta know for now is that's the top of the Heart of Sorrow. Other than that, the only ways they can go are back down the staircase, or there's this hole here. This hole is where they say all the bats are able to get to the belly of the castle. This is actually where my players ended up going. They got out a giant rope and went down this way. Which we will... Here, I'll show you real quick what happens when you fall down. Boom. It just brings you to the bottom of the staircase we saw earlier. We'll get to the bottom of the castle after we explore everything up top. Otherwise, that's all there is at the top of the castle, so we're gonna head back down to the chapel. Passing through the chapel briefly, we're gonna head up these stairs. There is no down for these. There are 2 more statues, they don't do anything. Heading up these small staircase, you come to K29. K29 is probably the tiniest room in the castle, as it's barely even a room. It is more of a creaky staircase. Basically, here in K28, it is a balcony, and there are these 2 thrones with zombies slumped on top of them. K29 is such a squeaky crossway that if you come up this way, you cannot sneak up on the zombies through here. That's all that is. Small fight with some of the Strahd zombies. They're the ones where if you use enough slashing damage, you can actually chop off an arm and the arm will keep crawling at you. And through here we'll see another path, but we'll actually get back to this path from the other side. For now, we're gonna head down this way, back through the Hall of Faith, and back to the Great Entry. As you head up the stairs from the Great Entry, you come over here to the Grand Landing, K19. The only thing of important here are these 2 suits of armor. They are a trap, though not the one I would have expected. There are 2 little pressure plates here. When more than 40 pounds are put on them, they fly forward. They're not alive, there's just like rope in them that sends them at people. It's more to scare them. It only does 2d6 damage, so it's really not all that bad. Heading up a little bit higher, you end up in K25. And this is what got confusing to me as I was trying to read this before I found this map, is you jump from 19 to 25, and it's not easy to find where those numbers in between are, so we'll get to those here in just a minute. So K25 is the audience hall. Main things of import are, there's the broken stained glass window that you would have been able to see from the courtyard. There's a door over here, a door over here, and there's a secret door over here. Through this secret door over here, we just find ourselves in a very similar little area as we found downstairs. Which, I didn't point out earlier, but you can see out these little arrow slits to see the courtyard below. And if you come over, there's nothing over here. But if you come over this way, you find that same staircase from below, and you can actually just go down this staircase and see that same hallway. We'll explore the rest of the staircase here in a little bit, but I just wanted to show that off. So we'll go back through here. This one's more useful for if you found the door down below, then easy way to get up here. But we're gonna go over here through this door here, ending up in K26, the guard's post. You'll see 2 skeletons. They're not real, well, they're real skeletons, but they're not alive or anything. They're just suspended by strings. And over here behind this guy, another hidden door to K33. We'll get to K33 in a little while, but just know that that is where this leads for now. Through this door here, we're gonna end up in K27. K27 is the King's Hall, and it has a trap called the Flight of the Vampire. When you make it about halfway through, what appears to be Strahd flies down to the players. You roll initiative like normal, and hopefully your players will expend a few spell slots, or consumables, or something, but it's not really a real one. It's just a Strahd dummy on a pulley. The other handy thing about this is, when Strahd does actually come to attack them, maybe next time they'll also think it's a trap too. My favorite part, it's just a goofy trap. It's just like a pulley system, so. The only other thing of import here is this hidden door, which leads to the elevator trap. This elevator trap is very complicated. Well, I suppose it's not super complicated, but it's a pretty big thing. So I'm going to go over that when we get to the bottom, which is where the trap actually triggers. But just know that right here is one of the entrances to that elevator shaft. And as we head through this door, we end up back at the balcony. So as you remember before, this is just overlooking the chapel. So something you'll notice is at this point, we basically only have one door left unless your party has found some of the secret doors, so... Or the stairs down there, I suppose, but... As we head to K30 here, the King's Accountant. This here is Leif Lipsiege. He's an accountant chained to the desk. He doesn't really care about the characters. Doesn't volunteer to leave the room. He mostly has this rope here, that if threatened, he will threaten to pull the rope. This was actually a really fun part when my players got here because he acted like he was in control of the situation when he really wasn't. He's a commoner. He dies in one hit. But he's basically sitting there holding the rope screaming, "Don't try me! I'll kill us all!" It was a lot of fun. Otherwise, the only things in this room are a crap ton of books. There's a key hidden in one of the books. It takes a DC 15 investigation and takes 10 minutes to try to find it. But once you do, there's a crap ton of money in the 4 locked chests, as well as a bottle of manual health. So I highly recommend that your players take the time to try to find it. So from these stairs, we can go either up or down. And I just want to show you if we go down, we end up back in the Great Entry. So really from here, we've just done a giant circle, so your options are either go to the basement, which we will do later, or head up these stairs. As we get to K35, the Guardian Vermin. There's basically these 2 dark figures are just a bunch of swarms of rats that'll attack you as soon as you come out. Through here we end up in the dining hall of the Count. Few things in here. One is the giant moldy wedding cake. There's a groom statuette under the table, and if your players grab that and take it out of the room, one of 2 things happens. Either way, the window gets broken, and you just pick whichever one you think will mess with your players more. Either A, Strahd broke the window and is just messing with your players, or B, his hate manifested into an invisible stalker which is now chasing the party. Pick whichever you think is spookier. This didn't happen for my players, unfortunately. And this is the most beautiful harp you have ever seen in your entire life. And if your players play on it, the ghost of Piddlewick will appear and tell them to find the treasure in his crypt below. From here, we're going to go through a little bit farther forward, end up in K43. This is a little bathhouse. There's a tub of blood, you can see clearly. And an illusion of a ghost basically jumps out and crawls across the floor. Doesn't do anything, it's just there to be spooky. Through here, there's a small closet, just got a whole bunch of coats hanging up. There's nothing in the chest or anything. Just here for flavor. You can see the windows outside. Make your way through here, you'll end up in K42, the King's Bedchamber. In here is Gertruda. Gertruda is a super naive, innocent girl. And when my party came through here, I basically just played her as incredibly stupid. She did not realize that Strahd was a vampire. She had no idea that there was any danger. She's basically sitting here, lazing about in her pajamas. The party originally thought that she might actually be a vampire spawn, and were naturally suspicious, but after investigating her, they found that she was just dumb and there was nothing to fear. The party did get Gertruda to follow them, actually, just in the name of keeping her safe. And we'll catch back up to that story here in a little bit. From this room, there's obviously the room back to the bathroom. There's a secret door over here that Gertruda does not know about, and this leads to the Hall of Kings. We'll get here in a little bit. This little clove here is just nothing, it's just spooky. Or you can head this way, into the library, K37. Here in K37, the main thing of import is this fireplace. I put this lever here and my players actually asked what the lever was for, and I said, oh, that's just the fire poker. Well, in the game, if you actually pull the fire poker, it opens this door. Heading through here, it gets you to K38. K38 is the false treasury. There's a bunch of coins on the ground, though most of them are copper and silver. And if you actually open this chest, poisonous gas comes out and tries to knock your players unconscious. If they're all knocked unconscious, the witches come down and abduct them up to where the witches live a few floors up. We'll get there. If they make their way this way, they end up in K39, the Hall of Webs. From here, there's a hidden door right here. Also leads to the elevator trap. Again, we'll get back here later. If they just proceed down the middle, they'll end up in K40, the Belfry. There's a rope here that leads to the bell. If you pull the bell, 5 giant spiders jump down and attack them, so hopefully they just avoid that. But if they explore, there's a hidden door in the corner here that leads to K41, the actual treasury. This is the best room in the entire castle. I really hope that your players find this, because there's just a bunch of loot in here with absolutely no downside that I can tell. So, best of luck. My players never found it, but hopefully yours will. But we'll head back this way. Head out this. And so from here, couple of paths. Over here leads to that Hall of Kings that we mentioned before, which is where we will go. This just leads over here to K36. And there's a door that's kind of hard to notice. Over here in the corner leads to a staircase. And we will get to this staircase in quite some time. It leads all the way down to the basement. So we're gonna go over here. Hall of Kings. These statues will answer one question apiece if asked directly. And there's some holes in the ceiling where lightning, when it illuminates their face, it looks spooky. But, so from here, there's obviously that hidden door we talked about earlier. There's a staircase down. There's a door over there that we just talked about leads to the library. Or there's this that leads to the Heart of Sorrow. We'll get to the Heart of Sorrow in just a minute. So as we head this way, we're gonna go to these stairs. Head down these stairs. This leads to a little hidden thing. This is where my players went. There's 2 hidden doors here. This one leads to our good old skeleton friend. We're gonna go out there in just a minute, but right now we're gonna go in here to K32. This is the Made in Hell room. There's a woman in here cleaning. Her name is Helga. She's actually a vampire, but she pretends to basically be a kidnapped maid. And that's led to a fun interaction when they brought Gertruda down. Because now they have both the girl who is naive and is basically being manipulated to Helga, who is a girl who is pretending to be manipulated but is actually manipulating the players. So what I had to happen is Helga told the party that she knew where some health potions were. Said, hey, Rogue and Gertruda follow me, I'll take you to them. And then when they lured the party off far enough away, she attacked and killed Gertruda, but they were able to save the Rogue before he died too. She does have a necklace on worth 750 gold, so, you know, hey, if you feel like killing her, it's a good time to do it. We're gonna head out this secret door here. We end up in another one of these just empty archer arrow slit places. Nothing here of import. Hidden door. And as we head over here, we end up in the Heart of Sorrow. The Heart of Sorrow has a lot of different offshoots from it. We'll get into all of those. Basically, there's this giant heart at the top. This heart will take damage for Strahd, so it is highly recommended that your party fights this before they fight Strahd, I'll be honest. It's just an extra 50 HP that he won't have when that fight comes. And when the guy only has 144 HP, 50 HP can be a lot. Basically, when they begin to ascend the stairs, you roll for initiative, and the heart will always try to make them, anybody who's on the stairs and isn't crawling has to make a DC 10 dexterity saving throw, or else they fall to the bottom and take fall damage. After a few rounds, some vampires will show up, vampire spawn, and once they get to the top, you'll see these floating, beautifully crafted floating halberds. There's 10 of them that will attack the party as they get to the top. They have pretty crappy stats, I'll be honest, but there's 10 of them, so eventually a couple attacks are gonna get through. So from here, we have a bunch of different ways we can leave. We're gonna start from the bottom and kind of work our way up. Well, not quite the bottom, because this leads down to the basement, which we'll get to in a little bit, and over here is just another one of these archer arrowways. Nothing of import. So, and then again, we'll get to the basement in a little while. Over here is a hidden door. This leads to the servants' quarters. There's a dancing dress. It doesn't do anything, it's just there for flavor. And this is a mirror, and if you move the mirror, you'll see the ladder that leads up to the stair. And as you head down, you'll find a couple of skeletons that are set up by a table. On that table is a book. The enchanting table worked perfectly for it. And the book is basically just flavor. It says, you know, write down your name and next of kin. It's supposed to be spooky for, you know, the servants, I guess. And as we look outside, we're back outside. So, theoretically, if your party can figure out all the puzzles and find all the hidden stuff, a pretty easy way to get to the Heart of Sorrow from outside is just right up there. Also from here you can see there's another path to the basement, which again, we will get to in just a little bit. So we're gonna head up here, head back over here. We're gonna start climbing the Heart of Sorrow stairs. Over here, again, this leads straight to the Hall of Kings. Here is one way to the Parapets, and the Parapets are, I've got to say, the biggest reason that I think a Minecraft map lends itself very well to this castle. Because from here you can actually see all the stuff that would be incredibly hard to describe if you're just a DM. Like, if your player says, oh, I'm on the Parapets, what can I see? You see an empty courtyard. From here, yeah, sure. But over here you can see there's a little roof over there, and you can see the carriage house. And especially, also on the Parapets there is a suit of armor that patrols. It's one suit of armor. My players took care of it pretty darn handily. But as you kind of make your way around, you can get into lots of different ways. This, obviously just leads straight back to the Heart of Sorrow. But as you kind of make your way around, if you're willing to make a small jump here, you can end up on this roof. If you're willing to break some glass, again, you can make your way straight to the Treasury without having to go through all that secret hidden doors and stuff. Heck, I think this is one of the best things too, because your party might, like, as they're finishing exploring, go, wow, there's a pillar over there we never got to. We never found a door that leads there. Oh, hey, let's just try to jump across the rooftops. You know, they can see all these different roofs they can get onto. Like over here, as you make your way around, tons of windows you can break your way into and out of. I mean, I'm just look at all this. This leads to so many of the different rooms that we've already been to, that if your party's willing to smash their way in, I think that's one of the best things that a tabletop role-playing game has over a video game, is this freedom, and I think this makes the freedom even more apparent to the game, really. I just think it's wonderful. So again, both of these just lead to the Parapets, which can lead to anywhere in the castle with enough creativity. As you make your way even higher and higher, as you make your way to the heart level, there's a path here. This leads to K58 and K57. K58 and 57 are just a bridge and the rooftop here. There's really nothing of import here other than here is a staircase that leads down. We'll get there eventually. But after they've probably killed the heart, and they can make their way up here to a small torture room, K60. In this chest here, it's locked, but and the only key is on Cyrus Bellevue's neck, which is in the basement, very far away. But if they either go there first and come back here later, or take this box with them, there's a 2,500 gold treasure inside. It's a little crown. It's worth a ton of money. I highly recommend that your players try to get that. But there's a little table here where people are strapped down and tortured. There's a little trapdoor in the roof, and water is beginning to puddle at the bottom of the stairs. As they make their way up here to K60A, a large cloud will appear that looks like Strahd's face, and bats will fly out and arrive in a few rounds. The bats will fly over here and go down that hole. And again, here's Piddlewick, and we remember this from a little bit earlier. And with that, we've made it to the top of another pillar. So, to get back to the next big thing we're going to want to explore, you can make your way all the way back here to the main room, the grand entry, back to this staircase. Keep going up the stairs, keep going, keep going. Remember the vermin room here? This is where we got off the stairs last time. We're gonna keep going up. K47. Now K47 is the best example of a room that did not scale correctly. So K47 is supposed to be a 20 by 15 foot room, and as you can tell by the fact that there are exactly 3 blocks here, it doesn't work. Unfortunately, there are a few concessions you have to make when you make a D&D map in Minecraft. One, every wall is a block wide. There's nothing else you can really do about it. I mean, I know there are a few panes and stuff, but otherwise, this is what you got. Also, every cube in Minecraft is actually a meter square, not 5 feet square. So there are a couple of places, and this one's the most apparent, where the sizes just don't line up. For this part, we had to break out the normal grid paper like normal to kind of set up the encounter, because there is a rug in here and a painting, which are both come to life and will attack the party. And again, I very much credit to StrahdVonZarovich, who made the original map. I believe he did the absolute best he could, but there's just a couple of concessions you have to make. So, as we make our way here, you'll see this trapdoor on the floor. Hey, look, it's our good friend, the elevator trap, yet again. Again, we'll get there when we get to the basement. Whoa, hello. So, we could go up the stairs even farther, but we're gonna stop off right here and hop in here. K49, the study. Here with our good friend Escher. He's just sitting here reading books. He's a very pretty boy, and he will run away before trying to fight to the death. It was a pretty fun room. Escher, from my party, he tried to grapple one of the players because they were alone. One party member decided to just sit here with Escher and read for a little while, and then he tried to turn him into a vampire. When they didn't like that, he tried to throw him over the cliff. Didn't quite work. The rest of the party came back and saved him, but as we make our way here to K50, this is the guest room. The guest room is probably the safest place in the castle. This is where, we'll get to it, but the elevator trap, if Cyrus is with them when it triggers, he will try to bring them here. This is as close as you can get to safety in this place, and it's still not very safe. Making your way into K51, you'll see there's a bunch of hooks on the wall and one leather jacket hanging from one. The leather jacket is not magical or special in any way, but it is covering up the hook, and if you pull the hook, a ladder will come down from this trapdoor up here, which leads to K55. We'll get there another way. So if you just go back this way, go back up the stair, K58, K48, I apologize. And then again, we'll keep going up, or you hop off. K54, this is the familiar room. There's basically a couple of cats here tied to a post, and I tried to make real cats and tie them to this post, but holy crap, the cats were so loud, it was not worth it. Plus, they ended up actually despawning when I went too far to the basement, so. As we make our way this way, we get to K55. There's basically just a whole bunch of potions in here that are labeled gross stuff, like Eye of Newt or whatever. They're just there in that bag, they're on the shelves and stuff. As you make your way here into K56, it's basically a room. Again, this one's supposed to be a little bit bigger, but there's a cauldron in the middle as well as 7 stools. And if the players have snuck up on the witches will still be sitting on the stools. I mean, if they're not, the witches will turn themselves invisible and kind of hide in the corners. If they come through this way, the cats will immediately alert them to the witches to their presence. As they make their way in here, there is a table on the far side of the cauldron with a book on it. And not gonna lie, when I moused over that, it really scared my players. It's similar to the icon of Ravenloft below, in that if the person with the wrong alignment touches it, they take damage, but as you can tell, this one's evil. So it was the same monk, who was an evil monk, who grabbed the icon of Ravenloft and this one, and you heard him just audibly say, "Oh no," as he picks it up, but he was fine. Basically, this evil book, all it is it's a spell book that has some 1st and 2nd level spells in it. They're kind of boring, but handy utility spells if your wizard needs them. And that's pretty much all there is in this little section. If we head back this way, we'll keep going up the stairs. And you end up in K57, which we remember earlier, leads to the Heart of Sorrow. So if your party actually just goes straight up these stairs and ignores all of the scary stuff that's off of the stairs, this is probably the fastest and the easiest way to get up to the Heart of Sorrow. And again, there's nothing else up here, so we've explored everything above ground in the castle. So, best way to get to the basement. I shouldn't say best, I mean easiest. Is here through the great entry. We're gonna head down this way, down K21. I say this is the most likely because it's the first way to the basement your party's most likely to see. So K61 here, again, you can keep going down farther to the basement, or you start in K61, which is the elevator trap. So, I just realized I made this all out of infested cobblestone, that's kind of funny. So what the elevator trap is when your party puts at least 400 pounds worth of weight in this little section here, little gates will shoot up on both sides, and this begins to rocket off towards the ceiling, and will arrive here in one round. Once they get to the top, they can find the trapdoor in the top of the elevator to make their way out here. However, the elevator will also put out sleeping gas that will try to put the party to sleep, and it's going to be pretty hard to resist. If everybody's asleep, the witches will haul them off, or if Cyrus is with them, Cyrus will actually take them to the guest room. So this is a great way to separate your party. If your party hasn't fully explored the top half and they don't know where this goes, now you've got half your party in the basement, half of them up in the top. And if you want to ambush them with some kind of random encounter, this would be a great time to do it, because now you've got to have one party race to the other one, and it makes for a very suspenseful moment. Again, so then we remember this little section leads off from the Flight of the Vampire room. Here's the machinery. They can use it either here to turn it off, or if they spend a minute, they can just fully destroy it. Nothing here, but again, this one leads to the Infested. And then this leads to the room that was very tiny, but it has the painting in it. Again, it's fantastic for getting your party separated, and it does lead to some really good suspenseful moments, but it is a little tiresome, because now basically you have to DM for half the party at a time, you know? If you head up a little bit farther here, you're going to end up with K62, which is basically this hallway. At the end of the hallway, you'll find K63. There's a little winery room. There's some yellow mold in here. Other than that, it's just some rats. Not like swarms of rats, just rats. There is, if you drew for treasure, there could be treasure in the room, otherwise it's pretty empty. And here's a kitchen with a cauldron in the middle. 3 zombies will try to, like, claw their way out of the cauldron. But if Cyrus is with you, then he'll just try to bat them back in with his giant pizza. With a giant paddle. Over here is actually where you run into Cyrus. This is his little bedroom. There's just junk all over the ground. Cyrus is a little creepy little man. As you'll see, there's a staircase right here. This is what leads to the servants' quarters. We've come full circle yet again. Here is K67, the Hall of Bone. It's kind of hard to make art made out of bone in Minecraft, but I tried my best. Cyrus has basically made all these bone sculptures as just a creepy art. If you head over here to the left, you'll end up in K68. This is another huge change I had to actually make, was to K69. Basically, these were tiny before he had them as little 1x2 squares, because that's what it looks like on their map. On like the actual D&D map. But it didn't just quite work in Minecraft, it needed to be a little bit longer. So I expanded them out quite a bit, gave them actual beds, and put these skeleton guys in there. Basically, once the party's halfway down, all 10 skeletons are going to jump them. There's nothing of treasure in here, so it's just kind of a bad place to be. The beds are misleading. Heading over this way. Do you recognize K64? You're about to. Probably one of my favorite little things is that the guards, if this was like a real castle, the guards from downstairs in their little bunks could come up here and really quickly make their way to the archery post to defend the castle from whatever intruders could be coming. And so then they can keep going on up. And again, we find that second hallway that was straight above it, and this one leads to the audience hall. And if we keep going up a little bit higher, we end up at the Parapets. Again, once you get to the Parapets, you can explore a lot of the castle pretty safely by just jumping in and out of windows. You know, unless the sound of breaking glass would be to unfortunately attract a vampire or something. You know. Be devious. We're gonna make our way all the way back down. Past the guard room again, we're gonna head over here. Through the Hall of Bone, we're gonna end up in K70. It's just a little room with weapons basically sticking out of the wall. It's supposed to show how strong Strahd was when he first turned to a vampire. Over here in K71, we have the Kingman's quarters. There's some harmless yellow lichen around here, and like through this little archway, there's these 4 clothes. 3 of them don't have anything, but 1 does have some coins in one of them worth a decent amount of money. And there are these stairs, which lead to the Heart of Sorrow. As you can see, we're kind of finding a lot of these. We're closing off a lot of the circles we've opened up earlier, so. They make their way this way. Through this door, here's K72. This is the Chamberlain's office. It's where Rahadin is, and there's also a shadow demon in here. My party never made it to this room, unfortunately, but I imagine it's gotta be a pretty cool fight. There's a hidden door over here. It leads to K79. Right here, this little square here is actually a giant glyph of major image that'll make an illusion of Strahd, and again, it's just here to try to either make your party less wary when Strahd actually appears, or get them to waste some spell slots or consumables. Heading down this way is my favorite room in the entire castle. One, because it's got some really cool mechanics. Two, because of my absolutely beautiful art. As you can tell, these are knights on horseback, giant metal statues. Yeah, that's what they are. So, K78 here. It's called the Brazier Room. There is this spooky white fire sitting in a brazier, and above it is an hourglass full of sand. In little indents all throughout the brazier are these little glass balls. And there's a writing at the base of the hourglass that reads as follows. Cast a stone into the fire. Violet leads to the mountain spire. Orange to the castle's peak. Red if lore is what you seek. Green to where the coffins hide. Indigo to the master's bride. Blue to the ancient magic's womb. Yellow to the master's tomb. And basically, if you grab one of those different colors, you throw it into the fire turns that color. If you touch the fire, you teleport. As you can see on screen right now, it shows you exactly where you'll go. The only problem I have with some of these is they don't take you into the castle, so if one party member touches one and flies off miles and miles away, I think that could be a little frustrating. But still, super cool. Problem I had was I did this as not a one-shot, but it was part of a bigger campaign, and I didn't have the whole rest of Strahd there, so I had to kind of reflavor it. So like the one that says Indigo takes you to the Abbey of St. Markovia, I had to just take you to the chapel upstairs. So they have 5 rounds to touch the fire. This is another good way. I actually ended up splitting my party here on accident because half of them touched one color and the other half touched another. So, and the last part about this brazier room that makes it honestly one of the deadliest rooms in the game potentially is these two swell lads here. If your party tries to break the brazier or the timepiece, they come to life and will try to kill your party. And they're both CR 10s, and it's recommended your party's level 9 coming through here. That's like a party wipe, most honestly. They're iron golems. They're pretty hard to kill, so if you're really worried about your party gonna break those braziers and you don't want to wipe, I'd probably nerf it a bit or make it a little easier on them. Maybe make it just one. From here, we saw it was down there. There's the Chamberlain's office. We'll get here in just a second. K83. If we head up these stairs, we end up back in the study. Did you forget about that door? Because I kind of did. Heading back down. We're gonna go this way. K80 is just the hallway, however K81 here is a slide trap. Basically, if whoever goes first triggers a slide trap unless they have a really high passive perception, and they will slide down and land in this cell here. And there's actually not a gap here. That was just, again, if there's a block there, you can't actually get through because of the staircase there. So, just a concession we have to make because we're playing in Minecraft. And we'll get into the rest of these prison cells here in a minute. So, if they don't manage to trigger that somehow, they can make their way over here, and they end up in the Crips. So the Crips, there are a ton of them, and I'll be honest, I did not make these according to the map. So if that matters to you, I'm sorry, but I did not want to have to go through here and try to read where each and every single crypt was. There are a few that will matter, a few that stand out. I'm not going to go through the rest of them because I don't want to be here all day. So a couple of them matter. I changed the name. This is actually Sergey's tomb. In here is basically Sergey's body. He's got +2 plate armor on him, which is really nice for heavy armored characters. Otherwise, again, most of these are just generic crypts. There are a couple that are going to matter. I'll point those out. This one is blank. It is your player's crypt. Basically, it'll say their name, and it'll say they succumbed to madness because they wandered too long. And when they go in, they'll just see a body, and then when they leave, the statue, the sign goes away. So the other one that's going to matter is Stab All Indie Back. Yeah, it's funny. As you make your way in, I made this little thing down here. There's basically 14 crypts with whites in them, okay? We're going to get back to this in just a second. Just know that's where this is. Oh, there's also a bunch of skeleton bones on the ground, and we'll get into that. So as we make your way this way, see this gold here? You gotta jump over that. You don't actually, but... So, the gold, and then these guys here, the really subtle things in the ground, are teleporter traps surrounding Strahd's tomb. If you touch one of these teleporter traps, you are teleported into one of the coffins down below in that crypt. and the white that is inside is teleported where you were. And when you go to make your way out, skeletons will attack you, and generally not a good time, but... So yeah, that you need to know where that's at. You can make your way in here. There are... Strahd's coffin. There's a few matches of dirt where his brides are buried, as well as these cloves on the back end. Basically, these little cloves on the back will teleport you depending on which one. Like, if you jump into this one, you teleport to Crypt 32 in a identical clove. Meanwhile, if you jump in that clove in Crypt 32, it teleports you here. And this room's obviously going to be important because if you're here to kill Strahd, Strahd will turn into mist and will go to regenerate in his coffin, so you'll have to make your way down here eventually if you actually want to kill him. And again, a lot of these crypts they just have small little loot things in them or small monsters. Honestly, I think most of them are worth skipping, but there is some treasure if you probably just want to look around. Over here, K87, you find these two thick lads guarding the way. There's just golden light, and if any player that is not good tries to go down that way, it will automatically teleport them to the bottom to the top of the stairs. And down there is again the tombs of Strahd's parents, which we remember seeing through the window earlier. A small player like a halfling or a goblin can actually go behind the statues to get around the golden thing. And that's pretty much all that's down here in this one. There's this staircase here, which, as we remember, leads to the chapel, but it's got the cave-in. And if any of your players can fly, they can head straight up this way to get to the top of the tower. And this is where Pitalik was. So, from here, there's really only you can pretty much just backtrack. There's nothing else down here, no other paths. So you come back this way, we end up back in the Brazier room. From here, there's only one more path, right down here. Leads to K77, and I'll be honest, the likelihood of your players coming from that way is low. They will most likely come from this way because we'll see these stairs here. Elevator trap. Great entry. Super easy. I would not be surprised if your players just immediately go down these stairs because it's right across from the hall. Head all the way down the stairs because nobody wants to stop in the middle, or very few want to stop in the middle of a staircase. They usually want to go to the either top and work their way down or the bottom and work their way up. But you end up in this little hall. It's got water up to your waist, and there's these teleporter traps all throughout this hallway. If you trigger one, and it's like a percentage based on your weight, whether or not you'll trigger, you can get teleported into some of these cages. This one here you recognize is where you end up if you follow the slide trap. And generally there's just some money, some treasure, some corpses in a couple of these. The only couple that matter a lot is here in H. There's a glowing short sword. It's sentient, but it's just a +1 short sword mostly. And over here in B is a werewolf who will try to basically tell the party that he's innocent, but he's not innocent. He will betray you. And yeah, again, corpses mostly throughout here, nothing really of import. As you make your way over here, this is the torture room, which again we saw is the Brazier room right over there. As you make your way into here, K78, make your way a few steps in, and 5 zombies are gonna show up and try to wreck your day, so. This is technically a different room. Right over here is K77. It's just the observation room. It's just a few feet off the ground, so it's not in the water. But with that, there's only 2 other rooms that we haven't checked, and these are the ones I always technically forget about because you don't really come here through the castle. It's K53 and K52. It's the rooftop and the smokestack. Nothing really of interest on the rooftop other than there are again some holes that if your players are explorative, they can get to different places faster, and the smokestack here just leads down to the library. And then that's pretty much it. That's the entire castle. I say that's pretty much it, like we didn't just spend the better part of an hour looking through here. But yeah, I highly recommend that you at least consider, if you're going to be running this castle, consider downloading it, consider running through it, because my party was so thankful for this map, because they all said if I tried to just describe this, they'd have been lost. They'd have probably been frustrated. Especially because, spoilers for Strahd, he can walk through walls, and so that just feels really hard to deal with if you don't kind of have a really good bearing on where you are in the castle. And I'd like to think I'm above average at being able to picture something in my head, but I'd have struggled. With this castle. I did struggle. When I was just reading through it, I did struggle, I'll be honest. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please ask one down in the comments below. The download link is in the description. The link to the original creator's video is in the description as well. Please go check him out. He did also a very good tour. Again, I just added a whole bunch of details, like a lot of little stuff that I really do think helps a lot. But there's no way I would have been able to build this out without his starting spot, so my props to StrahdVonZarovich. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.